Okay, well, I thought I'd do a bit of a video entry, kind of logging my progress in this project that I'm starting here in Nicaragua. So, right now, well, first off, my name's Kyle Bassett. I'm an engineering researcher from Canada. I recently completed my PhD in civil engineering, and I'd always focused my academic career on within the area of renewable energy and environmental sustainability. And as I reached the tail end of my PhD research, my PhD dissertation, I started really getting into a new topic area which I feel, upon researching it quite a bit over the last year or so, that it's going to be one of the most important areas of engineering in the next 50 years. And this is the advanced recycling of plastic waste. As I've traveled throughout Central America, developing countries, there's just such a need for some solution to this problem of plastic waste. Because unlike in Canada or the United States or Europe, developed countries, there's no infrastructure for recycling. There's no garbage pickup for many locations, especially in rural areas. So not only is it a challenge for them to control the waste and where it goes, there's also just no end use for the waste. There's no end use for any of the plastic, which just winds up everywhere here. So I'm located here on the Pacific Ocean in a small little village of about 250 people. The village is called Venecia, and it's a community based on sustenance farming and fishing. A very rural community. We're a long way from the nearest city of Chinandega, and it's absolutely a beautiful area. It's on a peninsula near the Gulf of Fonseca, I believe that's the name. And yeah, it's a gorgeous environment, but just over the years, I've been coming here for about 10 years now, off and on. I actually lived here for about 2 years between 2010 and 2012, building wind turbines for this village where I donated the electricity. And that worked out to be an extremely positive project. It really helped the community at that time when there was no electricity in the village. There was nowhere to charge cell phones or flashlights or anything. And so that operated for about 3 or 4 years. We had solar panels and wind turbines operating here, and people would come and charge up their devices for free. So I felt that was a really positive project. I felt that really did help, and fortunately now, in the past year or so, the community has really been growing, or improving, I should say. A lot of conditions have gotten a lot better. Now there is electricity, there is grid electricity, so there are houses in the village that have electricity, and now it's opened up a little bit more economic activity, so there's many more small pulperias, little stores where you can buy cold pop or juice, or also foods, snacks, gasoline, stuff like that, right? The essentials. But with that came this new problem of plastic, because now they had access to purchase these types of drinks, these types of beverages that were, delivered in these plastic bottles. And I must say, this year, the plastic problem has been much worse than I'd ever seen it. Walking down the main street of Venecia, and if you want to call it a main street, I'm sure I'll grab some footage of what that looks like. Just a pathway. But there's just thousands and thousands of bottles everywhere. The people, because of the introduction of these drinks and this plastic, it's really just made the problem worse and made it get worse much faster. So this has been an area I've been really interested in for quite some time now, and so I've been thinking about recycling programs and the difference between the infrastructure-based recycling versus other grassroots type recycling, and even the concept of upcycling. Now, what does that really mean in a serious scientific perspective. I really feel like upcycling hasn't received the attention that it really should from the scientific community. So by upcycling, I mean using these materials, these waste plastic materials, in a way that wasn't intended by the person who created it. So being able to use, cutting a plastic bottle to use the top for a funnel. That's basically the most basic form of upcycling. That's the essential upcycling. And upcycling can actually get very, very complex in a way. You could actually have very, very complex assemblies of these plastic materials for machines, for homes, for all sorts of items which could be beneficial to a person's life. So this is the area I've been so interested in for about the past year. I was here last year for about 2 months. I began doing my first experiments with recycling just right here at the beach. And they were promising. They were promising. I could tell I was searching for something. I was searching for something I knew was there. I knew that there was some type of proper or effective way to use this material in an upcycling context. So I'd investigated all types of processing methods. I had actually started with the idea of melting down the plastic at a low temperature, temperature such that it doesn't actually burn the plastic, and then using molds to form it into different shapes which could be used for useful things. Challenge with that, though, that I felt was the amount of energy it takes to melt the plastics. There's a lot of energy that goes into heat, and a lot of energy which is lost just due to the actual ambient heat loss to the environment. So it's a lot of energy, and in a lot of cases that energy may not be available. And it probably isn't the best thing necessarily for anyone to be using wood that they would necessarily need for cooking food to melt plastic. So I felt that that wasn't quite, although there was promise with it and I could make useful and durable materials and items, felt that there was still something really lacking from that system. And when you think about it, that really is the way that plastics are dealt with now in developed countries. Now I have to apologize, I use these antiquated terms of developed versus developing countries, and I know they're all very loaded terms. What exactly they mean, what exactly these classifications are. It's hard to, I sometimes don't feel good using those classifications of countries because I don't think it necessarily rings true to exactly what different situations are in these places. But I will use these terms as a means because it is the common vernacular for distinguishing between, I guess, poor countries and rich countries. And of course, in rich countries there are poor people, and in poor countries there are rich people. So it's a complicated dynamic, but for the sake of this project and also for the sake of the articles I write, I do use the vernacular developed versus developing countries. So the process of melting the material and using the plastic in that way really is very reminiscent of how plastics are dealt with in developed countries. They have a significant and expensive infrastructure for the collection of recycled plastics. There's an extensive workforce which proceeds to sort these bottles and process these bottles. And for example, in Canada, typically they may be shredded, melted, extruded, and cut into pellets of plastic resin, or the base plastics, and then that resin is then sold to China, where they make more plastic products, and then they import them back to us. Now this system had worked for quite a while. Whether it was the best system or not, who knows. Also, in China they can just burn plastics, burn garbage, which, you know, from the perspective of greenhouse gas emissions and protecting a natural water source in a country and all sorts of problematic things, that system really is non-ideal from an environmental sustainability perspective. So things have been changing actually with that dynamic very recently. In 2018, just this year, there's been new laws introduced saying that China can no longer import waste plastics from other countries, and this has had a real ripple effect on, every country who uses plastic bottles, which is basically every country. In Canada, they're offering new grants to municipalities to build landfills, new landfills in Canada, in order to control this plastic problem. And this is happening all over the country and all over the US. So this is a problem that's not just affecting developing countries, it's also affecting the whole world. And that's part of the reason why I believe this is such an important topic area. So, I've been here about a week now. Today's Monday. I arrived here last Tuesday night, and slowly made my way up here to the village. Spent a night in Managua, followed by a night in Leon, and then proceeded up to Chinandega, where I spent 2 days, and now I'm up here at the village, at the house. So I've been speaking to my friends and family here in the village about my desire to do a project relating to plastic recycling here in the village, and basically applying what I've learned in school in a really positive way that I hope can impact people. So yesterday, let me see if I can zoom out a little. So yesterday we went around to some of the local villagers, Ramon and I. Ramon's, he's my best friend down here. Known him for the entire time I've been here. Him and his wife take care of the house here that I live in while I'm here. And yeah, he's my best friend. This family is amazing. They are my family, you know. And so they're really excited about this project. They've known me for 10 years. They've seen me do all these projects. They saw me do the turbines. Actually, Ramon was right there. He was a huge help and a huge person who helped administrate the project and make that connection between the technology I was developing and the people who I wanted it to help. So he was so essential in that, and he was also very good with working on the turbines with me. He learned very, very quickly how to build them and the parts and how to maintain them, which was fantastic. So we're all very excited about this new project that I've come here with and which I want to explore with them and learn from them as well as their perspective on this technology and what we can do with it. So yeah, as I mentioned yesterday, we went around to some of our friends in the village, chatted about this project and what we had in mind for it. And everyone was really excited. Everyone really liked it because they recognized that, the plastic is getting out of control in this country and in this village. So everyone would love some kind of solution. So the first thing I've put forth is an offer to buy plastic bottles from waste plastic bottles from anyone who brings them and collects them. So we live right here on the Pacific Ocean. The village is right here on the ocean. And as you know, the ocean is rapidly filling with country-sized islands of plastic, and that's affected the village here. The beach is full with plastic, and it just washes ashore from the ocean. The ocean just constantly brings this plastic in, and there's nowhere to take it, nowhere to put it. So the first step, I proposed buying plastic bottles from anyone who would bring them for 1 Cordoba per bottle. So that equates to around about 3.5 cents Canadian or something. So pretty similar to the 5-cent rebate you would have in some countries. 1 Cordoba just seemed like a good number. And wow, the response to that has been already incredible. Just the amount of, when people hear this, it sounds incredible to them, right? So we have to keep in mind, and I guess this is very important to the dynamic here, is that the villagers here, they live on very, very little. In dollar terms, I'd say the majority of the people here live on, between $2 to $3 a day, something like that. That may even be the higher range of the villagers in some cases. And so if one could go out and collect 100 bottles, that's 100 Cordobas, which is about $3, around $3 thereabouts, American. That could be a huge impact for them. I mean, that could be a huge bonus and really help improve their situation, right? So that's kind of how I started. We're just, today's our first day of collecting bottles. Ramon's just going into town now to let a few people know. Right now we're actually telling a lot of the school kids about it, because it'd be very easy or very convenient for them to collect bottles on the beach as they're walking home from school. It's very simple, it's not hard work, it's just straightforward. They were walking that way anyway, and they can make a little extra money for their family very easily, very effectively, which I think is a really positive thing, really positive thing. So the next part of this challenge is, once I have the bottles here with me, what am I going to do with them? What end use do I have for these bottles, which can be effective, which can be just a really good way to use these materials for an extended period of time. So something that will last a very long time and isn't just going to reintroduce the plastics very soon. So in a way, I've coined a term or thought of a term called end cycling. So not recycling, not upcycling, but end cycling. You're stopping the cycle. You're finding the end use for that material. And for me, end use would mean something that would last, well, let's say 25 plus years in the same place. Now I know that's not perfect. The goal would be that it would last thousands of years in the same place. Just not sure where that is, where I would be with that type of technology yet. But for now, I'm saying something that's in the same use for 25 plus years. Now we know plastics, PET plastic, HDPE plastic, all these polypropylene, polyethylene, all these plastic compositions and formulas, they basically last forever. They never really break down in the environment. I know that they talk about bio-PET and all this stuff that breaks down faster. If you read the white papers on it, you'll see that really that isn't yet at all effective. It's not even true. It's really mostly just marketing. So these plastics are going to be around for thousands and thousands of years, so we have to find uses for them which end the cycle of that plastic, end that cycle's use in a more useful way than it was originally intended. How silly is it that this problem has developed just from the delivery of sugary drinks? But we are where we are. So anyway, this is just kind of my first chat with the camera, trying to get used to this dynamic of talking. And yeah, I'll keep you guys updated as I proceed. This is kind of my first entry, and I'll be getting some video footage of the stuff I'm developing as we're testing, doing experiments. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the days ahead, and I'm really enjoying this process of investigating this new project in my life. So with that, yeah, thanks. We'll chat soon. Adios.